Holishasha Mandela began his life herding sheep and cattle in South Africa's Eastern Cape. In his autobiography, part of which was written in secret in prison, Mandela wrote, "I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free." His given name Holishasha literally means tugging at the branches of a tree. But it was at school that he was given the name of another famous leader.
When I went to school, the lady teacher, Miss Mdingane, asked, "What is your name?" I told her my African name, Holishasha. She says, "No, I don't want that one. You must have a Christian name." So I say, "No, I don't have one." She says, from today you are going to be Nelson."
As the son of a chief, Nelson Mandela had access to the best education available to the black people in South Africa at the time. Studying at Fort Hare University, where he first became involved in student protests, his refusal to accept injustice and unfairness would be a quality which would last a lifetime. In his early 20s, Nelson Mandela moved to Johannesburg, where he first encountered the racial discrimination firsthand, which would later become entrenched in law by the apartheid government. Working in the mines and later as a clerk in a law firm, Mandela pursued his law studies and joined the African National Congress.
It was when I came into the African National Congress that I realized that Xhosas are only a part of the African people. That the task of the ANC was to unite the African people and out of them build a nation.
In 1948, the nationalist government was voted into power by the white electorate of the country. The battle lines were clearly drawn.
Comrade Oliver said, "Well, I like this because we now know we have an enemy in power. And I think that we're going to have a better opportunity of mobilizing our people."
Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily, and perhaps much better, be described as a policy of good neighborliness, accepting that there are differences between people.
In 1952, the AIC and other parties called upon the people to gather in Cape Town to approve a freedom charter for a multiracial South Africa, in which all races would be treated equally. Nelson Mandela was banned by the government from attending and was forced to watch from the sidelines. 4 years later, in 1956, members of the AIC were charged with high treason. The trial was designed to force out the opposition and keep them out of politics. The trial lasted for 4.5 years. It would be another 40 long years before the Freedom Charter would bear any fruit. In 1960, a peaceful crowd had gathered to protest against the government laws. The crowd was shot at by the police. 69 people died. Martial law was declared. All opposition was banned and thousands were jailed. When it became clear that all means of peaceful negotiation were exhausted, Mandela went underground to lead an armed movement.
There are many people who feel that the reaction of the government to our stay at home, ordering a general mobilization, arming the white community, arresting 10,000s of Africans, the show of force throughout the country, notwithstanding our clear declaration that this campaign is being run on peaceful and non-violent lines, close the chapter as far as our methods of political struggle are concerned. There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Key government installations were targeted for sabotage. Mandela became known as the Black Pimpernel. 2 years later, Mandela was captured and charged with leaving the country illegally and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years. At his hearing, a defiant Mandela wore his traditional African outfit, which shocked entire Africa.
I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if need be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
When Nelson Mandela and several of his colleagues were sentenced to life imprisonment for treason, they were sent to Robben Island, the island of prison off the Western Cape Coast.
You must fight the battle for dignity on the very first day you go to jail.
Really?
And that's what we did. We put our foot down and insisted in being respected, even though we were prisoners. And we eventually succeeded in that.
Nelson Mandela was 45 years old when he became prisoner number 466. He would be in his early 70s before he would again be a free man. Forced to perform futile hard labor in a lime quarry, the prisoners refused to be broken. Far from being diminished, Mandela's moral stature and leadership continued to grow. The words of Victorian poet Henley often brought him solace.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the steel. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
His young wife Winnie continued to be an inspiration for his struggle. But the struggle for freedom would continue for a quarter of a century. While Mandela served his life sentence on Robben Island, several leaders campaigned for change. And around the world, ordinary people showed their horror for apartheid and their support for Mandela's struggle. In 1976, Soweto school children marched in protest and townships around the country erupted in violence. It was the beginning of the end of apartheid, but the struggle would drag on for another decade. In the late 1980s, amid a tide of world pressure, the South African government was forced to accept the inevitable. Apartheid was dismantled. In 1990, at the age of 71, Mandela was released unconditionally.
I must confess I'm unable to describe my emotions. I was completely overwhelmed by the enthusiasm. It's something I did not expect. And I would be merely rationalizing if I told you that I am able to describe my own feelings. It was breathtaking. That's all I can say.
4 years later, Mandela became the country's first black president.
I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come. The time to build is upon us. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. We commit ourselves to the construction of a complete, just, and lasting peace. We understand it still that there is no easy road to freedom. We know it well that none of us acting alone can achieve success. We must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, for the birth of a new world. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign.
During his tenure from 1994 until June 1999, Mandela worked to bring about the transition from minority rule and apartheid to black majority rule. As president, he established a new constitution and initiated the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate past human rights abuses, while introducing policies to encourage land reform, combat poverty, and expand healthcare services. By 1999 general election, Nelson Mandela had retired from active politics. He continued to maintain a busy schedule. However, raising money to build schools and clinics in South Africa's rural heartland through his Mandela Foundation, and serving as a mediator in Burundi's civil war.
It will forever remain an indelible blight on human history that the apartheid crime ever occurred. It will forever remain an accusation and a challenge to all men and women of conscience that it took as long as it has before all of us stood up to say enough is enough.
Mandela was diagnosed and treated for prostate cancer in 2001. In June 2004, at the age of 85, he announced his formal retirement from public life and returned to his native village. Nelson Mandela made his last public appearance in 2010 at the final match of the World Cup in South Africa. He largely stepped out of spotlight, choosing to spend much of his time in childhood community. Although unwell, he continued to work for various charities and AIDS awareness, a disease which took the life of his son in 2005.
Comrades and friends, welcome to this great event. We are enjoying a wonderful concert here in Cape Town this evening. The 46664 concert. 46664 is a vital campaign to help fight a tragedy of unprecedented proportions that is claiming more lives than the sum total of all wars, famines, and floods. AIDS is no longer just a disease. It is a human rights issue.
In his many years as a world leader, Mandela was honored with many awards and accolades. Amongst them was the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993.
Today's announcement that I have been named to receive the most prestigious award for peace was a deeply humbling experience.
His birthday today is celebrated as the Mandela Day internationally.
The very right to be human is denied every day to hundreds of millions of people as a result of poverty and the unavailability of basic necessities such as food, jobs, water and shelter, education, health care, and a healthy environment. As I sit in Kunu, my village, and grow as ancient as its hills, I will continue to entertain the hope that there has emerged a cadre of leaders in my own country and region, on my continent, and in the world, which will not allow that any should be denied their freedom, as we were, that be turned into refugees, as we were, that any should be condemned to go hungry, as we were, that any should be stripped of their human dignity.